Greetings. This is episode 10. I'm going to be talking about the necessity to do some nighttime training. And it's a controversial issue among runners. Everybody has a different strategy. Some people swear by a full overnighter to get the full experience. I don't think that's necessary. A lot of people, and probably most people, feel that a 3 to 6 hour experience is sufficient, and I certainly agree with that. Especially if you're running from just before dusk all the way till about midnight, 1 o'clock, and or obviously you can start at 2, 3 in the morning and run through early dawn, 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning, and that'll give you a really good experience, stress your equipment, stress your body, give you a sense of the temperature changes and things like that. So that's more than enough to really give you the experience you need to handle the 100. Of course, the 100 is going to stress you a whole lot more, so exaggerate those feelings and get a sense of whether you can handle it and what adjustments you need to make. So anyway, here's a few pointers I have and the reasons why you should have a 3 to 6 hour nighttime experience. One, navigation. So navigation, obviously in the point to point and the out and back type runs is critical. On the short loops, not at all, because you're just doing loops and they're short. But navigation is important because at nighttime, your usual markers aren't necessarily there. And you can get disoriented a lot easier, and once you get disoriented you get flustered, and that can sometimes be dangerous, especially when you're doing point to points and out and backs, because some of that terrain might be rocky, technical, and certainly don't want to end up in a situation where you put yourself in danger. I run the loops, but I usually build in several long out and back runs, 30 miles, 32 miles, 38 miles, and I will, in those situations, make sure that I start early morning or late afternoon so that I get that dark experience. And I've gotten lost, even in Myrtle Beach, where we live, and I do a lot of my training. Going on a few side roads and thinking that I knew where I was, and learning that I absolutely had no clue, and got completely turned upside down and ended up doing an extra 4 or 5 miles. And in those back-to-back type runs, you only bring enough water and fluids that you absolutely need. And so I know on that one occasion I ended up with a shortage of fluids, and again, it's dangerous, right? So be careful of that. The second reason you want to do a nighttime experience is weather changes, right? So ideally you start late afternoon, just before dusk, and you do your run, and you go through those temperature changes in the early evening and all the way into 12, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, and you can experience changing your equipment, changing out your clothing, and how easy is that to do? On a loop it's easy, but out and back and point to point, very different story. So that experience, to condition yourself and to make sure that you discipline yourself in changing clothing. You might not feel like you're going into some kind of hypothermia, but it creeps up on you, and before you know it, you're in deficit and you can't come back. So make sure you test that, you train that, and you make your changing of the clothes more routine, and you can learn that at night. So the lights, that's number 3. So you need lights. If you're doing point to point, you're doing out and back, you need your lighting to work very well, because that's definitely another issue that's a danger in running. Batteries go, lights don't function properly, maybe they get wet, they short out, things go wrong. You need to have experience in how to handle that, how to change out batteries, how to maybe adjust your lighting in a way that it lasts longer, the batteries last longer. I usually dim when I don't need it as bright, and then that stretches the life of the batteries out. So, those are things you're going to test. The straps around your head. After about an hour of having that thing, that lamp hitting you on the forehead, you learn quickly how, what the ideal strap, the tension of your strap should be. So those are the kinds of things. Does it irritate you? And where should you place it on your forehead? Things like that. So lighting is very important. Terrain when it's dark. The terrain is obviously can be dangerous during the day. When I ran Coldwater Rumble in Arizona and we were out in the desert and going through the Stray Mountains, it was, those rocks were pretty sharp and the gradient was steep. And at night with a flashlight where you don't have depth of perception, it's rough. So, we certainly recommend that you look at training on the kind of terrain that you'll be on for your actual 100-miler, so that you get that experience, right? You learn how to do it in the dark under those stressful conditions. So with the darkness, it's not just the darkness that can be problematic. It's that twilight time between late afternoon and dusk, or that early morning, just before dawn and going into dawn. The light starts changing and you decide to cut out your lighting to preserve your lamp. And, I've got in trouble a couple times. Once in Laughlin, Nevada, and I was doing a 21 training mile run. It was rolling hills, it was fine, but at night, I thought I was fine running on the asphalt, and of course that's black on black, and with a light it's gray on gray, so you don't see that depth change. And I hit a bump in the road and fell over. It happened so quickly, I didn't even realize it was happening. And I actually ended up breaking my middle finger doing that. And that was something that was completely unexpected. It was right on the road, which is pretty even, except for that bump. Now, what does that teach you? It teaches you, to maybe be a little bit more conscious when you're running at night. Lift your feet a little higher, watch for things. Now, that's easier said than done in terms of when you're getting tired, because a lot of that rationale goes out the window. But there's nothing like doing it at night and learning from maybe close calls and learning from, mistakes that you make with terrain. But again, do something, a night training on the kind of terrain that you will run on. And last but not least, the fifth item there is training the mind here again. The mind is very powerful, and running at night is a different, requires a different mentality and a different psychology. You start seeing things. Some people hallucinate. I certainly did on my first successful attempt at a 100-miler. I got to a point, doing a loop. It was about 4 o'clock in the morning, and I saw a wall in front of me where there shouldn't have been a wall, and I was quite confused. So I didn't know how to go around it. And so I started walking and I tried to find a way around this wall that I saw in front of me, and I realized there was no wall. Well, anyway, I took a 2-hour break after that. It was quite confusing and a little bit scary. So, but obviously, if you're doing a 3 to 6 hour test run at night, you're not going to have hallucinations. But just know that that's the extreme part. The rest of it is, having the kind of mentality that is conducive to running at night, and it is a different experience for the mind. So experience that. Anyway, that's episode 10, and we have 2 more episodes to go, and hopefully you stay with us.